What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams. I am joined today on this Victory Monday by one of my normal co-hosts, Mr. Kyle Henning. How we doing today, Kyle?
It's Division Victory Monday,
Yeah,
so
division
I'm
winning.
I'm good. Was typical for this year Chiefs game again last night. Naturally, because we played at 9 o'clock at night. That
Yep,
I'm exaggerating a little game, but the game didn't get over till like what 10:15.
probably at least that. Yeah,
Didn't get to bed right away, of course. So it's nice. It's nice. I've kind of come to terms with having Mondays and whatever off because of the way my work schedule works. That because we play so many primetime games, it doesn't
works
matter if
out.
I can't sleep for like 5 hours after the game is over because they keep doing this crap to us.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need the Chiefs to get the fans a sponsor with an aspirin or a blood pressure medication company for heart
some
health.
yeah, heart.
Um,
Mm.
you guys are sponsored by GEHA. You're gonna need to give your fan base either a Bayer sponsorship or somebody
Yeah,
along that lines. I don't know who, but figure it out because the way y'all do this every week, it's getting to be the norm, but also it's getting to be a bit ridiculous. Um,
yeah.
Mis-
That one was particularly ridiculous last night. Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Bird Lawyer's tweet and meme is
yeah,
as accurate as it gets. So much so that Barstool went from shitting on him for it to using it in like
yeah.
2 weeks
Now suddenly
time
realize,
and
yeah.
not crediting him when they did
Yeah.
be can you try to be a bet? I know you guys suck as a company because your owner is an absolute but at least pretend like you have some integrity and
Yeah, that
decency.
meme is very accurate to describe every Chiefs game usually, and especially last night's Sunday Night Football versus the Chargers, coming down to the wire with a doinked field goal to win it as a walk off. The Chiefs are now the only team in NFL history I saw to have three different kickers hit walk off game winners in a season.
Well,
So that's pretty funny.
that's usually because if you've had three different kickers in a season, you're probably not good enough to be trying to win games on walk-offs, and B,
Yeah,
most of the time you don't have three different kickers in a season.
yeah. So the Chiefs have just had. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of just all different things happening, the weirdness, the craziness, end of game situations happening that just it definitely tugs on the heart medicine. You definitely you need something to calm you down after that one. So division game, it always ends up being a lot closer than you might think.
We said it was gonna be this time.
Yeah, my score prediction was 20-17, so I was just about on. I was pretty dang close.
Sure were.
But ultimately, though, looking back at the game, probably one of the better Chiefs games so far this year. Obviously, the final score doesn't really reflect that, but it did seem to be a lot more mistake-free football. The defense held on really well, especially throughout the first half, shutting Herbert out for only the third time in his career in the first half, which that was a good accomplishment. Offense didn't make any horrible mistakes or turnovers or stuff like that. We do stuff to talk about the offense though as a whole. But ultimately, they did get the job done, put themselves in a position to succeed. Patrick Mahomes played one of the better games of the season from him, especially on that last drive. And we're sitting here at now 12-1 and clinching the AFC West division for the 9th consecutive year in a row, which is the second longest streak in NFL history behind the Patriots, who did it 11 years in a row, I believe. So we're coming up on that pretty quickly.
The parallels are growing every day between this organization and this run and the Patriots dynasties. I hate. We've talked about it. Like I said, I gain more empathy for that fan base every day, every week that we move forward. It is what it is.
The recency bias is kind of crazy, and a lot of conversations have been coming up of
I
how
still cannot believe the tweet about the Patriots weren't hated. Are you smoking crack?
Yeah, that is wild. Like I said, the recency bias of people not remembering how absolutely hated the Patriots were. And even I've seen some where it's like they were fun to watch. It's like, what part of them was fun? They basically ran like a military academy. None
And
of
a
their
dink
players
and
were
dunk
allowed to.
factory, except for Randy Moss.
Yeah,
The Randy
none of
Moss
their
years.
players were allowed to showcase any emotion. Bill Belichick was stone face on the sideline every game. It's like I don't know.
He looked like
Chiefs
he
are a
was
lot
being
more fun.
physically murdered. Well, I guess his tight end could have actually done that for a while.
Could have,
but he
had an
looked
actual
like he
murder.
was in physical pain throughout every game that they played, even if they were up 25.
Yeah, not to mention the actual confirmed cheating scandals that the Patriots had.
There's that.
So yeah, that's it's.
I
Chiefs
guess
fans are definitely realizing that the villain role is a tough one to take, but I mean we don't really care because we're just gonna keep on enjoying the ride.
I guess we started the actual game conversation with the injuries that we suffered because it's gonna kind of be an important discussion going forward here.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
Andy didn't really talk about any of the injuries because he
he just kind of glanced over them, which is funny.
Josh Williams got a concussion, but then they said it was a chest issue.
Yeah, they're calling it a chest injury. Yeah, I'm not sure if you got the wind knocked out of him or what.
You don't go to the locker room and not come back for getting the wind knocked out of you.
Broken ribs, or I'm not sure what happened.
Bruised ribs, contusion, chest contusion, who knows?
Yeah, potentially.
So that's one. The left tackle who hadn't played football in a year and was coming off an ACL injury, tweaked a hamstring. It sure looked like.
That's what it looked like. Yeah, it looked like he pulled a
discussed. Andy said something about an MRI today that he felt better, but they would know more once they did the MRI. Which I hate it when we talk about MRIs.
Yeah,
but get the MRI done. Hopefully everything's all nice and clean and peachy, and he can be back.
Yeah.
That on that same topic, they brought in depth today.
They did. Yeah. The Chiefs
to the practice squad. He's not on the roster yet.
Not on the roster yet, but I'll expect that to be very soon. But yeah, the Chiefs just today, Monday, as we're recording this, actually just a couple minutes ago.
30 minutes ago or less. Yeah.
Reunited with old friend Steven Nelson, cornerback, who played for the Texans last year, bounced around a couple teams. He was with the Steelers for a while. He was a third-round pick from the Chiefs in 2015.
He actually played really well for the Texans and better for the Steelers than he did
for
us.
Yeah. So, Chiefs fans don't have great memories with Steven Nelson, mostly because while he was here, he was with the Bob Sutton era of defense that would just allow 100 yards per.
His counterpart on that defense at one point was Philip Gaines. So,
what Terrence Mitchell was another one. Was that his name? Yeah. So it's it was not a great defensive unit as a whole back then. And then Steven Nelson,
secondary anyway.
Yeah, not secondary for sure.
Eric Berry was looking around going, guys, cover somebody. I can't cover everybody.
I can't cover everybody. Yeah, I can't tell every single person where to go on every play. Steven Nelson, he had signed a big deal with Pittsburgh after his time in Kansas City. Kind of had a rough, interesting exit with the Chiefs and some of the fan base and stuff like that. Seemed to be a lot of shit talking back and forth and whatnot. But he ended up.
I think the most issues with Steven was less about the on the field stuff. I mean, he wasn't great, but it was more about how he left and what he said after he left and what he said to fans and what he said about the city, which I'm not going to get into all of it, but you can go find it. It's not hard to find.
Right. But he ultimately did end up playing pretty good with the Steelers and then with the Texans last year, or the past couple years he was with the Texans, and then he'd actually retired this offseason, has been sitting at home waiting, and with all the injuries that Chiefs have had at corner, especially losing Josh Williams potentially for who knows how long, but they've obviously had a pretty clear, and we'll talk about it as we get into this game recap, but they have a pretty clear need for a true outside boundary corner. Obviously, losing Jalen Watson was a very, very big hit to this secondary that no one's yet to really replace. Josh Williams has done okay, but it definitely seems like the Chiefs need some more boundary corner help. Steven Nelson seemed to be an option for him, which was kind of surprising for a lot of us.
They need boundary corners so that they can push that depth chart back down some more, and push some guys down the depth chart so one of them can play slot, because they don't have a slot corner right now either. Because I'm sorry, Shamari, but it ain't working.
No.
It
Yeah,
ain't working.
Amari Connor is a safety, and he should not be treated as anything
So-
but a safety. Nazi Johnson probably in that same combo as well.
I would rather see Nazi in the slot than I would rather see Shamari in the slot right
Yeah,
now.
Jamari, he's a great tackler, great effort.
That's fine.
He'd be a great safety.
He
but
cannot cover man
cannot
coverage
rely on
against.
him to cover basically anyone. Yeah,
Definitely can't do it against wide receivers, and not against
Wide
tight ends that are
receivers, yeah.
7
And,
freaking
yeah,
inches
not
taller
tight
than
ends
him and
either.
35 pounds heavier than him.
That kind of eliminates everyone he might be covering.
It should be a help situation, which is what it should be with a lot of your safeties. You really shouldn't be begging safeties to play man coverage against wide receivers and stuff. The occasional safety can play man against tight ends. It's not all of them. We've been blessed. You had Eric Berry. You had Tyrann Mathieu.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Reed did it okay up until midway through last year, and then it's become more of an issue. Look, there's two things that I really want to touch on with this stuff, with the Steven Nelson thing. One is, like we talked about, the depth. It's more about, like I said, adding depth to be able to move guys back down the depth chart kind of to where they thought they were going to be this year. Because remember, they anticipated having Jalen Watson playing outside or playing. I think they anticipated your top 3 corners being Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, and Joshua Williams. In that order, 1, 2, 3. And because one or both of the other 2 outside of Trent have been down for at least portions of this year, whether it was mentally down for mistakes and issues and kind of getting in the doghouse, or physically down, both of them being physically down at this point, it's not worked out the way that they wanted. Yeah. Something else to keep in mind is there's a finite number of resources available when it comes to, well, why didn't they just sign another corner in free agency? Why didn't they? Because there's not, first of all, you go show me the corner in free agency this offseason that they were going to be able to afford, for one, and for 2, that was going to slot in and be ahead of Jalen Watson. You talk to me about being ahead of Josh Williams, fine. But being ahead of Jalen Watson, who played every game for you last year with a jacked up shoulder and was still pretty darn good as the third corner when they had Snead last year. So some of this is the players that they had needed to step up, and they haven't, whether that be Nazi, whether that be Josh, whether that be insert your defensive back, Shamari, whoever. Some of these guys were supposed to take steps forward and either haven't, or were asked to do more than they were anticipated to be asked to do this year, and they're out of position because of it, and now they're not having as much success. That's part one. Part two is, I think the theme for this team this season and for this three-peat attempt is unexpected reunions.
Seems like, yeah. They're leaving no stone unturned. I
would have bet a large sum of money we were never seeing Kareem Hunt in a uniform again, in a Chiefs uniform again, before this season started. I would have put a good chunk of change on that. I would have lost that chunk of change, but I would have felt pretty confident about it. I was in the same boat with Steven Nelson for a lot of the reasons we talked about, whether it was play on the field, he was retired, also factors into that.
Would have never been a guy we would have even thought of bringing in, really.
He did not leave here on happy-go-lucky terms. Now, I do think most of that had to do with Bob Sutton. And
yeah, one of those tweets was he did not like the system that he was leaving. Which
on
was
that
Bob
note, all of Chiefs Kingdom can agree with you on that one. Nobody was happy
we can
with
all
Bob
relate
Sutton.
to that one. Yeah,
we get it.
That one makes sense.
And I get when you're angry and people say things about you online, you lash out with some other stuff sometimes. That can be a factor. So my message would be with the unexpected reunion stuff, give him as much grace and freedom and whatever that you gave when Kareem came back. Yeah. Obviously different scenarios, different situations for why they were leaving, whatnot, so on and so forth. Obviously different approaches by the player on how they left and when they left and what was said very different tones, but they're all human. Everybody, like, they're human beings at the end of the day. It's part of the deal. This front office is like, hey, man, don't care what happened before, care what you can do for us right now.
But yeah,
And
sometimes time heals wounds, It's like
it does.
Initial reaction a couple years after, he might have been a little upset, and now, a little bit older, he's like, all right, let's just come back, give some good play, and maybe help win a ring, So yeah, hopefully that, like, the unexpected reunions have been a surprise, and who knows if they're fully done. I'm not going to say any names. I'm just saying I'm wearing a Trent McDuffie shirt. There was another cornerback who used to wear that number, who played in Kansas City. Just saying, Marcus Peters come back.
We talked about that before the show. We also talked about Justin Houston before the show.
Houston, yeah, who knows, and there might be, Lord, who knows who's still out there ready to come back and help three-peat. But yeah, definitely, probably from at least from an on the field standpoint, probably a very good move for the Chiefs to hopefully just get another veteran, because they really don't have, like, if you really think about that secondary, there's not a lot of veteran guys. Like Justin Reed is probably the most veteran of guys.
He is the most tenured person in that.
And he's not even that old. He's only like 26, probably 27. So it's like, you're adding a very experienced corner to the mix, and cornerback is one of those positions.
Yeah, he's 27.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured. I think he signed with us when he was like 24 or something. So
he was young coming out.
Yeah, so cornerback is kind of one of those positions, kind of similar to left tackle, where it's like you kind of know your job. You line up against the outside guy and cover him. There's a little bit of scheme and knowledge to learn, but I would expect to see Steven Nelson on the active roster in some games pretty soon.
It'll be determined by how fast he can get physically up to speed.
That's true. Yeah, physically how well he's doing.
He hasn't played since last year.
Yeah.
He did not go through training camp. He did not do any of that. I don't know anything at all about what his life day-to-day workout routines look like outside of the football field.
And you think if
after retirement,
if you retired, you'd probably took a couple extra days off the work week.
Maybe not 7 days a week working out or 6 days a week working out. Maybe it's 3 days a week
working out. Might be a little
more
time to get up to game speed for sure.
So snap count will be interesting if he does get onto the field. I would expect
he's been running a podcast.
I would expect it to be more of a practice squad elevation thing the first week or two before they do anything active roster wise, potentially. Although they're going to have some choices to make on that front again, depending on what guys go where and how these injury situations pan out with some of the other people we mentioned.
Was having a good retirement. Looked like he was doing a lot of podcasting and hunting deer and fishing. So,
but
hey,
enjoying retirement sounds like.
But now he's like, you know what? We'll dust off the old cleats, get back in there.
Hey man, money and rings talk.
That is true. That does talk.
On that note, I guess we start with the defense.
The defense. Ultimately, I think they played a good game. Like I alluded to in the opener, they held Justin Herbert and the Chargers offense to 0 points in that first half. Second half, they got a little lackadaisical a couple times, left a couple touchdowns up there. Ultimately, I think there's still some question marks around a couple units. The defensive line did not get a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert outside of Trey Pipkins, I think the right guard. He was kind of the one guy that they were getting a lot of work on. Chris Jones was doing Chris Jones things, still disrupting a lot. Tershawn Wharton had 2 sacks. Yeah, Chris is always going to get his. So there was some production from the defensive line. Turk had 2 sacks. Nick Bolton had a sack off of a blitz, which a blitz finally got home in what seems like a couple weeks now. Is the first time we've seen a blitz get home from Spags. So
it was a delayed blitz, and it was a really, really good job by Nick to sort through all the mess and get through all the traffic and still
he laid the boom on
also,
Herbert too.
He hit Justin Herbert 4 or 5 times yesterday, where I was like,
he had that one on Herbert that Herbert ended up coming out for a play, and the rest of the series.
Well, the series. Look.
I mean, there's one more play left in the series, but it was like a 30-20. But
yeah, Nick does certain things really well. We've talked about this roughly 100 times. He can play the run game. He lines people up correctly. He can be your spy if you need him to be, which he showed yesterday. He's smart enough to do the spy. He knows when to run to bring the blitz off the spy and close up. That's just why he made the big hit on Herbert when he rolled out and ended up, and Herbert hurt his knee, which I'm glad that wasn't super serious. Never want to see a guy like that get hurt. That would have been real bad. But I think it's important to talk about the defense with the same perspective that we kind of went through last week. I know you thought I was a little aggressive. It was not an attack at you. It's about some of the conversations that we continue to see discussed. One, Spags has got to stop putting guys in bad spots. Now, again, lengthening that depth chart will help with some of that because I don't think he feels like he has a lot of choice in some of these coverages that they want to run, because he's not going to change who they are as a defense just because he doesn't have exactly who he wants in there. That's why you saw a tight end that had like 3 catches in his whole career have 3 catches for 50 yards yesterday. Most of which were in the second half, by the way. So the Chiefs defense should not only shut them out in the first half, but did it pretty convincingly. They gave up 1 drive in the first half that was longer than 32 yards. They gave up 7-play, 53-yard drive. It started at the Chargers 2 because of our friend Matt, the punt, hates his nickname, the punt god, Ariza. So we're going to have to workshop that. Our friend Randy gave us a good one. We'll let him debut that one if he wants to launch that out there for a new nickname. I hope he did. It was real. Yeah. Which Spanish for the hammer, because the punts and the hitting. He thinks freaking free safety. But that drive started at the 2-yard line. They got to the KC 45 and had to punt. And most of that came on 1 play to Josh Palmer when they left Brian Cook one-on-one with Nick Bolton on no, and like Nick Bolton didn't get a jam because they weren't pressing Josh Palmer with Nick Bolton at the line of scrimmage. So he's just kind of in phase with him. And you leave Josh Palmer running gun barrel down at Brian Cook one-on-one with a little post corner move.
Yeah, I believe it was single high too, safety. So it's like, I don't know if that's the person I'm putting back there for single high, Brian Cook. But
I mean, I'm fine with it being in single high, but put a wide receiver on the fastest wide receiver they have and the only one that's proven he can catch a football? I don't know.
Yeah. Definitely a little questionable, but ultimately they held resolved. And
so most of that yardage was on that play. And so, like, other than that drive, which was 7 for 53, their drives, the first one was 6 plays, 31 yards, punt. That drive happens. The next 3 drives after that, now, mind you, the Chiefs during that period punted twice after those with good field position, because we'll get to that in a little bit. But they went 6 plays, 31 yards, 7 plays, 53 yards. Then they went 3 plays, 1 yard, 3 plays, 4 yards, 3 plays, 2 yards, 5 plays, 31 yards, end of half.
I didn't realize there was 3 3-and-outs in a row like that. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, not just 3-and-outs. Three didn't move the ball an inch or use more than a minute.
Yeah, that was definitely the defense, the run game. They were really good at stopping the run. Obviously, the Chargers didn't have their full scale of running back weapons, but they were not getting much movement in the run game whatsoever. And then, the Chargers were missing Ladd McConkey, who was their number 1 weapon. Regardless, though, it's just Herbert didn't have. Really, the coverage was pretty good for the most part, aside from the couple big blown ones that were those big chunk plays to like the tight end Smart and Palmer.
And a lot of that is the blitz not getting home.
Yeah, exactly. But on kind of a more standard, like those 3 3-and-outs, it's like it was just good solid coverage, and the Chargers not really being able to capitalize on things, and the defense doing their job, which was
right. So that was the first half. If I asked you how many drives the Chargers had in the second half, how many do you think it was?
Well, it started with the ball. I'd probably say like 4, maybe 5. 3. Wow.
3 drives.
That's actually even crazy. Yeah, because I know their first
plays,
drive coming
79 yards,
7
minutes and 46 seconds, touchdown. That's the drive that was the biggest issue for me. It's the one where they left a couple of why did we let that happen on the table, whether it's the passes to Stone Smart, whether it's forgetting to cover Quentin Johnson in the end zone, whether it's So, but again, had a year to throw that ball on that whole drive. Justin Herbert,
yeah, especially on that touchdown play. It was his pocket was the size of Texas, and it was getting spread out even further than that. It was ridiculous.
The next drive, the Chiefs go 3 plays, 9 yards, punt.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers then go 4 plays, 74 yards, touchdown. Big play. Literally the first play was the DPI that was not DPI because Justin Reed turned his head, and yet they called it anyway.
That was a pretty bad one. Yeah, especially with the other missed one that we'll talk about on the other side. Yeah.
There was a which one was it? Was that was the Bolton? Which drive was it? I think it was the first half with the defenseless receiver penalty on Nick.
Oh yeah, he did have that,
which was utter nonsense. Putting your shoulder in a wide receiver's chest and dislodging the football 15 yards. Okay, I don't.
Pretty ridiculous.
So again, the second touchdown they got on a questionable PI penalty, and that was 95% of the yardage because it was a 40-yard penalty on an underthrown deep ball. Again, it's the best play in the league for offenses is underthrown DPIs because it's almost every single time. It's rather annoying. The Chiefs then followed that up with a field goal. Then the Chargers got a field goal on a 14-play, 57-yard, and almost 8.5-minute drive. Penalties, weird stuff, odd coverage choice.
That's just the biggest thing for me that we keep on going back to is just the selection of who's covering who, and just guys really not being in the proper positions that they should be. It was also very interesting to me. They kept on bringing Keith Taylor in on like goal line, like the very 5-10 yards and in, and they would use him as like the second corner instead of Josh or Nazi. It's very interesting to me.
After Josh got hurt is when you saw Keith Taylor more.
Yeah,
so Josh got hurt on that 2nd and 18 after the Bolton sack. Bolton makes that big sack, and then they convert a 2nd and 18 to a first down on a flat route throw to Quentin Johnson because there was nobody there.
Yeah.
And then Josh gets run into on the sideline and ends up coming out of the game with the chest thing. Then you saw a lot more Keith Taylor after they had Nazi in. I don't know if it's just a stylistic what they like to do down by the goal line a little more, and they're not as worried about Keith getting beat deep because he doesn't necessarily have long speed, so he can play in that condensed space a little more than Nazi can from a size perspective. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thought there. But again, we talked last week. Your point was the 346 yard blah blah blah, and my point was 17 points. And what did they give up this week?
Now they had less yards.
17 points.
Yeah, so
they don't care about the yardage. They don't care about any of that. They care about the points. I also found it interesting of the second half drives, both teams had drives of 12 or more plays, 2 drives of 12 or more plays in that second half that ate up the majority of the clock, which is why there was only 6 total possessions in the entirety of the second half for both teams.
Yeah, there are definitely some very long drives at
13, 3, 4, 12, 14, 14. That's the list of drives in order for each team all in all.
Yeah, it was actually almost a good thing. The Chargers' final drive of the game, I think they started with like 10 or 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and I was almost welcoming the fact that drive kept on going. I mean, we've been very critical on the defense not being able to get off the field on third downs, but that was kind of one of those situations where the more time drained for that drive was better, because I think the Chiefs ended up getting the ball back with like 4.5 minutes left.
4:35.
Yeah, so they had a good amount just a perfect amount of time that you can really go down the field and drain the rest of the clock and kick the game-winning field goal, which worked out. So,
which is verbatim what they did, because that's what they do. And
so the defense, they played a good game. We'll definitely take that.
Didn't have the turnovers. Wanted a turnover.
No turnovers, which is always kind of a big thing.
More sacks.
Yeah, that was good.
Had We had a Nick Bolton sack, which was the blitz sack, and we had 2 Tershon Wharton sacks, which he should send Chris Jones a Christmas card for both of them, because
Yeah.
at least one of them, Chris destroys Pipkins and the center on the double team, and Justin Herbert like pushes up into the pocket, and Turk is like, "Oh, hi, nice to see you. Nice of you to run right into my arms. Thank you for
Yep.
saying hello."
Yeah, Chris also had a play that he just absolutely blew up in the backfield. And if you remember that, they tried to run like a little pop pass to whoever number 12 was, and Chris just blew by everyone, basically almost tackled Herbert and the guy at the same time.
I don't know how that dude held on to it. The number 12 you're referring to is Demario Davis, I believe.
Yeah.
Darius Davis.
Chris
Darius
almost took
Davis.
the ball out of the air when
he almost took it from him before he ever got it. But then once he did get it, he almost killed him, and I don't know how he held on to it, but he did.
So that was impressive. Chris Jones is always going to get his. It's just about the guys around him showing up. It was a little more of a quiet game from Omenihu. Karlaftis, he was getting okay pressure on the edge. He's always just still kind of a half step too slow on some of those plays where he gets the edge real quick, and then Herbert's ever to step up just ever so slightly. Just ever so slightly, needs to get a little more.
Did that to Leo a couple of times too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We didn't really talk a whole lot about Leo, but that was kind of a thing that we talked about pregame, because the inactive list included both Joshua Uche and Malik Herring, 2 defensive ends, which left them only 4 active defensive ends, which was a little interesting. And then that became very clear after like just the first drive, because they were using Leo Chanel as an edge, basically one of their main pass rushers, especially early on.
I believe Nate Taylor said he played 4 positions on that first drive.
Yeah. So that was good to see Leo
like, what?
going out there and lining up at edge, and he was getting some pressure. Like, that is a guy that you can put in anywhere, and he'll get some movement on whoever he's going up against. So that's a little bit of an answer to why they haven't really used Joshua Uche, although that's still a little bit questionable. But
I don't understand, but whatever. They didn't allow the running game to do anything, which is what the Chargers wanted to do in this game. Gus Edwards had 10 carries for 36 yards, 10 of it on 1 carry. Kamani Vidal had 8 carries for 34 yards, 8 of it on 1 carry. The longest run they gave up was to Taylor Heineke when they knocked Justin Herbert out of the game for a little bit on 3rd and 26, which you're fine with at that point.
Yeah.
The run game was they destroyed them in the run game. Again, yet another team that wants to run the ball, that's usually effective at running the ball, that could not run the ball on this defense.
No, that's exactly what you want to see.
Josh Palmer had 6 for 78 on 9 targets. Fine.
Yeah.
They're going to have somebody do something. And when you do some of the stuff they do coverage-wise, it's going to happen. The one that's really the problem for most is the 3 for 54 to Stone Smart, who most of you probably wouldn't have been able to tell me he played on their team before the game started.
That's the thing with this defense and covering tight ends. The tight ends are going to get theirs. And even, Will Dissly had 2 for 19. I know he's been a big tight end threat for him this year.
Him getting hurt absolutely screwed me, by the way, on a separate note. But nobody wants to hear about those things.
It's bound to happen with this defense. Just we don't have quite the personnel needed. But we also get
everybody's best shot. If you don't believe me, Quentin Johnson caught the ball 5 times. Quentin Johnson hadn't caught the ball 5 times in a month.
Yeah, he did score their lone passing touchdown.
And he converted the 2nd and 18.
Yeah.
Legitimately, that dude couldn't catch a cold for the last month and caught 5 for 48. And it wasn't necessarily about coverage all the time, because there were a couple of catches he made where he was extremely covered. As a matter of fact, he's the one Nick Bolton destroyed in the middle of the field and got the penalty for and held on to the ball.
Yeah, still held on to it, which is
that
great.
Dude didn't. Again, like I said, that guy hasn't held on to a football ever.
Leave it to the Chiefs defense.
And of course, he holds on to it against us.
Game.
But that's kind of my point, is like, they played him just fine, and he made catches he hasn't made his whole career against us in this game. We get everyone's best shot.
Their best shot.
Every freaking week. Over and over. That's the best their offensive line has looked all season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everybody's like, "Oh, it's your no." Yes, some of it is they aren't getting enough out of certain guys. The other part of it is we get the A+ game plan, we get the A+ effort, we get the A+ energy, we get it all, and every week and they've played more football by like a season and a half now. They've played a full season more in the
Yeah.
playoffs over anyone else the last 3 seasons. They've got more games played. So like, hey man, it isn't always pretty. As a
It's
matter of
not.
fact, at this point, it's never
It's
pretty.
basically never pretty, actually. Yeah.
But it doesn't matter you don't get style points.
No, that's true.
It's not
Well,
college.
that's something that the other side of the ball really has to recognize, is that you don't get style points for some of these things. Maybe just run the ball a couple more times and you'll be fine. But we'll get into that
It's
in a
not
second here.
college. You're not
Yeah.
you know who would rather have a win than style points? The Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
They scored 42 points.
They had a lot of
They
style points.
lost.
Yeah. They sure did have a lot of
Josh
style
Allen
points.
did some LeBron stat thing. Thank you, New Heights, for that reference. He had another LeBron stat that he's first quarterback with 3 rushing and 3 passing and blah blah. And guess what? They lost.
He also has some LeBron flops. So that's So yeah, ultimately, Chiefs defense, they did their job. They did their job pretty well. They held a very hot Chargers offense to only 17 points. Really kind of forced them into what they wanted to do. Limited the run, made Herbert have to drop back a lot and pass, and it wasn't always the most. It wasn't the cleanest passing game from the Chargers as a whole, which was good. And the Chiefs figured out a way to get it done and held them to mostly field goals, which was crucial, especially in that fourth quarter, and gave their offense multiple opportunities to really lengthen the lead, but especially at the end there to seal the deal. So let's hop over to the offensive side of the football.
Do we have to?
We do. Yeah, we do. It was an interesting offensive performance. First drive was great. They ran the ball like 5 times with Isaiah Pacheco. They had just a ton of production. They had a couple real easy passes and whatnot. Didn't end up scoring a touchdown on that drive, of course. It kicked a field goal. Outside of that first drive, though, I think there was like maybe 5 runs total in the second and third quarter combined. That was kind of the ridiculous part of the offense, and the reason, obviously, the reason that's not a good thing is because the pass protection is still not there for the Chiefs. DJ Humphries was in first game. He did okay. He did fine for a guy who has been recovering off a major ACL injury and coming back after not playing for a while. It's just the unit as a whole was getting pretty abused by that Chargers D-line, who has a very good D-line. The Chargers have a very good D-line. They got Joey Bosa, Bud Dupree, Tuli Tuipulotu, bunch of good interior guys. Khalil Mack is still out there. So they have a wonderful D-line, but it's the pass protection as a whole is not holding up very much at all. Pat got hit so many times that game. I forget how many sacks. He took only 3 sacks, it looks like, but the amount of hits, it was basically every damn play that he was getting hit in some form of capacity. And usually, if you're just getting hit over and over and you're just dropping back to pass over and over again, maybe you throw in a couple runs there to give your QB a break, maybe give the offensive line a little break from pass setting, which obviously was not working very well. And the Chiefs did not do that. The Chiefs did not seem to want to run the ball very much at all.
They didn't run the ball for 12 minutes.
Yeah. There was multiple drives. I mean, they tried the one drive, and then there was a penalty before the play, and then they just didn't run the ball again after that. That was easily the most frustrating part of the game, was just watching Pat have to drop back play after play and getting hit play after play and them refusing to run the ball. And we've seen Andy do it before. We've seen Andy just forget about the run game. But this was just a particularly bad instance where your quarterback is laying a lot of hits. And listen, Pat is a tough dude. Like, I am not really worried about Pat and him holding up, but it's just a matter of like, man, just give the guy any kind of break, any kind of little bit of a breather to not get demolished play after play and run the damn ball. That was the thing.
19 plays, offensive snaps, not punts, not kicking field goals. From the 14:26 mark of the second quarter, they ran, 18 plays before they ran the ball again to Kareem Hunt with 2 minutes and 24 seconds left on the drive they scored a touchdown on before half.
Right. So
18 consecutive dropbacks.
So that was
in a game you were winning.
Exactly. That's another thing. It's like you're not
off game script.
You're
not down 2 scores.
Yeah,
you're not playing catch up.
Of the game. You're not trying to catch up. You're not trying to your defense is in very much control on the other side of the ball. Like, just run the ball. It's not rocket science, but you damn near think it is with the way that Andy called that game. That was a very frustrating aspect of the game. Especially because Pacheco, when he was getting the ball, he was looking good. Like,
they had 19 carries or 20 carries by running backs in the whole game. In the whole game. And they had 7 of them on the first 2 drives.
7 of them, yeah. So that tells you everything you need to know right there.
We talk all the time about putting players in positions that are beneficial. Maybe, just maybe, your left tackle who is playing for the first time in a year off a major injury ahead of when you would have really liked him to be playing because the guy that he's replacing is beat to crap too. You give him a little less requirements to pass block for 18 consecutive snaps.
Yeah, that's a really baptism by fire right there. Yeah.
And then everybody went, well, I can't figure out why he's giving up pressures. Oh, I don't know. He hadn't played football in a year. He's coming off major injury. They all know they know every single time we are going to throw the ball.
Yeah.
They're going to throw it. They're going to throw it. They're going to throw it. More throwing it. He's going to throw it.
It's like at a certain point they realize, oh, yeah, they're not going to run. We can just keep on teeing off with pass rushers.
And it wasn't like they weren't being successful when they did run the ball. They were running the ball fine.
Yeah, they were doing perfectly fine.
It wasn't, oh my God. And you gave Kareem Hunt 25 carries, like 5 games in a row in the middle of this season. Now we can't get 20 carries combined between the 3-headed monster that you have.
5 whole carries, yeah.
You have 3-headed monster. You have Isaiah Pacheco, you have Kareem Hunt, and you have Samaje Perine. I know that Andy doesn't think Samaje can carry the football forward when you hand it to him, but he can.
He does, yeah. He does. Usually it's pretty productive whenever Samaje gets the ball in his hands. He had that one reception.
Catch out of the backfield where he ran 4 guys over for 16 yards?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Samaje Perine, we have to give him some flowers for that. We also have to give him flowers for...
Don't jump ahead. We'll get there.
We won't get ahead.
You run the ball. This team, as it's currently constructed, is built to run the football. The strength of your offensive line is the interior.
The offensive line as a whole, because they can't pass protect very well. So yeah, maybe just run.
Well, but the strength of your O-line is your interior, and those 3 guys run block extremely well.
Yeah,
it's what Trey Smith does better than pass blocking. It's what Joe Tooney does equally. Those are basically the same. He doesn't really care. Creed, same thing as Joe. It's those 2 or whatever. But
I mean,
Trey is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. Juwan Taylor is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. I don't know what DJ Humphries is. We've had him for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I know that it's a lot easier for offensive line to dictate the play and be the aggressor when you're running the ball than having to backpedal 18 times straight with Khalil Mack screaming off the edge at you every time.
Yeah. That makes sense to me.
Put your players, and this is stuff we don't ever talk about because Andy and Pat have been good at it forever, putting their players in the best situations. This year, they are doing some very odd things. that are not putting their guys in the best positions to succeed, and we're seeing them struggle with things. I don't know if it's a let's stress test them and make them get better at stuff that we need them to get better at. Well, I would really appreciate the stress test to be less stressful for the rest of us.
Yes, yeah.
Like I said, run the ball. Can we have 25 carries? Even if it's combined between the three of them, can you have 25 carries? If it's
that would be
an 18-12 split or an 18-10 split or a 16-10 split or whatever it needs to be.
With Pacheco still being the lead back, because that should. I don't
care. Yeah. I don't care if they both run it 15 times a piece and it's an even backfield. Yeah. I don't care. Just run the ball.
And
please.
Like I said, Pacheco, relating to Pacheco and him coming back, he has looked pretty good since he's come back from the injury, which has been nice. Which is why. Maybe do that more often, maybe get some more of that in, and you can get the run game more, because he's ready to go. Like, it's not like you should be limiting his snaps anymore. Like, he's primed and ready to go. I know you're trying to give Kareem a little bit of a break, but still, it's like you got to do something more than what. And
I'll give them a little bit. They did have 4 catches between the 3 of them, so that's a little more of an extension of the run game thing.
Yeah.
But like, run the ball. Especially, like I said, 18 consecutive pass plays, guys. And I swear to God, Matt Nagy is not calling the fucking plays. I don't know who needs to hear this.
Matt Nagy's doing it. It's all
Andy has told you. Patrick has told you. Nagy has told you. Eric Bieniemy has told you. Travis Kelce has told you. Andy has 51% of the vote. If he wants to throw the ball 18 straight times, you know what they're going to do? They're going to throw the ball 18 straight times. Yeah. I don't care who is standing on the sideline going, Andy, you shouldn't do that. I don't care. I'm doing it. Okay, we're doing it. Like, that's how that goes. He is not carrying around the Cheesecake Factory menu of plays to not be the one making the decision. It is his team. It is his choice. It is his play calling. When it's good, when it's bad, when it's ugly, when it's beautiful, it's Andy. It's always gonna be Andy. Period. They have input. They help work on game plans. They do all that other stuff. I'm not taking away from anything any of the coaches that everybody else wants to say are great or terrible. By the way, you remember when everybody said EB sucked when he was here? Because I do.
Yep.
God, it's not Matt Nagy. It is Andy freaking Reid. Love it, hate it. It's one guy.
Live by Andy, die by Andy.
Correct. And he's done it his whole career. He will go large stretches of games and be like, what's the run game? I forgot that's a thing.
He will.
Oh, yeah.
We have seen this before.
And then we'll watch him go for 5 weeks and do nothing but spam the halfback dive button for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
It is Andy Reid.
Yeah. Andy is certainly a character when it comes to play calling. And that might be a whole grand scheme where he's just trying to put a bunch of stuff on film and really get people thinking that he's a man in the run game, and then he'll probably come back next week and it'll be a run heavy game or something crazy. But from that game, that did seem to be the main criticism of the offense. Otherwise, I mean, they moved the ball down the field pretty well, and this is something we talked about the past few weeks where they can move the ball. It's just a matter of when they're they cross the 50, when they get within 30, 20 yards, red zone. That's when they kind of start to fall apart for whatever reason. And it was kind of a multitude of reasons. They had the big Trey Smith 15-yard penalty, which that's just ridiculous. I thought like a minor headbutt on a guy after and you get 15 yards for that and the down still count. That's a ridiculous one. Again, in my opinion.
First of all, don't do it because that's stupid.
Yeah.
And you're going to get microscoped when you're in there. Also, I watched Max Crosby headbutt a quarterback and not get 15 yards for it.
Right, yeah.
Oh, wait, I have a freaking print of it hanging in my office. Thanks, Corey. Like, come on.
Yeah, like that happens, I feel like, very frequently, like headbutting after play or something. And that was even like, I didn't think it was, I mean, Trey could have really headbutted him if he wanted to. That was just kind of more of a knocking of helmets.
The Chargers defensive lineman decided to do his best Josh Allen and
so
throw the head and flop the arm.
That kind of like killed that drive.
Not a smart play. Can't do it. Much as it was, I don't love the call. Trey also knows they're calling that every time. You can't do that. I shouldn't say every time. They're calling that 99% of the time.
So that killed that drive. There's a couple other times where like they had very protective drives, and then it's just they couldn't get it done one way or the other.
Run the football
Yeah.
in the
it would
tight
help.
areas. If you're going to spread them out and you're going to put 4 people out wide and it's just one, then you're even up in the box. It's your running back making one guy miss. Your running backs can make one guy miss or run that one guy over. Like,
Right.
run the ball.
Run the ball. Yeah, especially when you're in many short yard situations. It's like I'm just going through the play by play, and there's a couple, like there was a 3rd and 2, there was a 3rd and 1, and
they took deep shots on at least 2 of those.
Yeah, like I said, they didn't run the ball on either of those plays. Spoiler alert. I don't remember exactly what happened, but they didn't run the ball. Both of those were incompletions.
One of them was the deep shot to where DeAndre Hopkins got molested 4 times down the field, and somehow the ball was ruled uncatchable.
Yeah,
so we had defensive holding, illegal contact, pass interference, and the ball's uncatchable. Well, yeah, what about the 4 penalties that made it uncatchable? And the ball wasn't that uncatchable.
And but also it goes back to one of those things. Obviously, should have been penalties, and that should have been a hit. But also maybe you just run the ball in that situation instead of taking a deep shot. I talked about it a couple weeks ago on the 3rd. Last week. Yeah, it was last week when the 3rd and 2.
Max protect. Only Xavier Worthy in coverage.
Yeah, dial
Travis
up
with
Worthy
the block
for a deep shot. It's like maybe just run the ball instead. And and that's where I had mentioned earlier where it's like style points don't matter. That's something the Chiefs kind of have to realize. Like, hey, I know you want to complete a big pass and a big gain and really, the Chiefs are pretty desperate for that deep passing game to be a feature of their offense again. But there's just some situations where that's not the time to do it. Like, I know, technically the D-Hop one should have hit, but that's not the time when you should be dialing up these deep shots to guys when otherwise your drive is just killed because of it. It's you got to pick and choose your battles a little bit better. And Chiefs have not been picking those deep shots, in my opinion, in very good situations. So
you want to do that on 2nd and 2 after you got 8 yards on first down?
Right.
When you ran the ball for 6.
When you ran the ball and got
7
yards off of 6, 7 yards. Yeah.
That's fine. 3rd and a foot. Maybe just get the foot.
Just the ball. Yeah, maybe just get the foot, and then
you want to take the shot. First and 10. Go ahead.
1st and 10. Yeah, exactly.
Here's the other part. They're spreading the ball around again, which is great.
They are.
It's great. Here's your receiving charts: 5 for 46 or 5 for 45. Travis Kelce, Xavier Worthy, 5 for 41, including the largest conversion of the game, which we'll get to here in a minute.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins, 4 for 32. Now, that's a little bit more concerning because he had 9 targets and only had 4 catches. One of them, he was hit like a defenseless receiver, and they didn't flag it.
Yeah,
like they did Bolton.
Yeah. Penalties we just talked about.
Another one, he was, again, molested down the field the whole way. One, Patrick threw it behind him on a 3rd down conversion when they ran that overload flood to the right on 3rd and 2, and then he threw it all the way back. If he leads him, it's a first down. He was behind because Patrick's feet were out of whack, and he was running the other way and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But so now you're down to 4 for 6, which is much better and great. That's fine. Juju Smith-Schuster sighting. 2 catches, 2 targets, 31 yards, 26-yard long.
That was that one big
conversion.
Open. Yeah, wide ass open.
Noah Gray, 4 for 26.
Yeah, just fine showing.
Samaje, 1 for 16 when he ran 3 dudes over to get. He was going to be tackled at the first down line. Probably would have been like a 2-yard gain. Ran 2 dudes over, 16-yard gain.
8 yards more, yeah.
Kareem Hunt, who knew? He can catch out of the backfield. 1 for 13. Yeah. Oh, wait, we knew because he did that his entire time he was here the first time he was here.
Frequently, yeah. Maybe throw him the ball a little more. Who knows? Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco, 2 catches, 6 yards. 4 targets. Got a first down on one of them. Like, not a big deal. That's fine. Baylor Cup, rough start.
Yeah, well, that was another drive that ended up getting killed because I think he dropped
drive of the game.
Pretty wide open pass, and that kind of
first drive. He was literally he chip blocked and leaked out into the flat. There was no one.
Yep.
Mahomes threw it to him, and he said, "Oh my God, it's a real big football game. I've never played in one of these in the NFL. Oh my God, I dropped it." That's tough.
And then
I don't think he saw the field again
Mahomes
after that.
Sacked because it's 3rd and 10 instead of what it should have been like a 3rd and 2. probably if
down?
he catches that.
Would have been a first down. There was the rest of the defense
Yeah,
was
it would have
15,
marked
16,
it. Yeah,
18 yards
you're right.
downfield, not looking at him. There was nobody nearby.
So once again, dialing up a little shot to undrafted rookie, maybe just throw it to someone who's not an undrafted
I mean,
rookie.
catch the ball.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but first ever pass attempt to the kid. Yeah,
You're trying to give the kid a stat. You're trying to
you
help
are
him
trying
out.
to give him a stat. You did get him a stat. You got him a drop stat.
A drop and target. It's rough, but
and I don't think he had many snaps after that.
I don't remember seeing him on the field after that. So there's that. Now to get to the big plays, because there were two of them, I think, really.
I mean, really, that whole last drive from the Chiefs offense, we should talk about as just one of the better offensive drives they've had as a unit this season.
The drive before half and the drive in the game. The last 2 minutes, they ran a 2-minute offense on the drive before half.
Yeah, we should actually talk about that, because that drive before the half, they did a little thing called hurry up offense, which, kids, in case you're not aware, that's a pretty good tactic to use for an offense. Keeps the same D line on the field, gets them not be able to rotate their guys, gets them not be able to call those exotic stunts that we just don't know how to figure out. Tempo is a very useful tool that the Chiefs are actually literally the lowest in the league at using. I saw some stat, I don't remember what it was, but we are the lowest at using hurry up tempo. And I don't know why, because even Andy Reid said it in the halftime
interview.
The halftime interview, he said, "Yeah, we started going tempo, and that works pretty well. I'm not going to do it again, but
I'll never do it again until we absolutely have to.
Going to see that again, but it did work out pretty well when we were doing it. So yeah, that's something when your pass rush or when your pass protection is getting beat over and over. That's a good way to get the defense on their toes, get them a little tired, and it's so easy for offenses to run. I mean, you like any former quarterback or anyone, if you listen to them talk about like 2-minute offenses and tempo and hurry up, it's like it's so easy for them to do. It's not like you need. Yeah, it's like it's the simplest plays that everybody knows. You don't it's not a big. You don't have to sit there and go and huddle and this whole thing. It's like just line up and go and just keep on sending it. You got 1-2 options, and then it's just almost too easy, and the Chiefs don't do it. And that last drive before the half, it worked out really well for a DeAndre Hopkins touchdown at the end of that. So that was a really good play. That was a really good drive.
Quick passing game, nice run, sprinkled in right before the 2-minute warning. Then they continued to march. Couple of conversions. They had 1 third down conversion. It was to start the drive. He hit Xavier Worthy for the 11-yarder, and then they walked down the field for a touchdown. Walked.
Easy.
Boom, 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 boom. Got down to the red zone, and I was like, are we going to stall again? Oh, no, look, a quick slant to DeAndre Hopkins. It does work. Who knew?
Yeah. Simple.
And it wasn't even difficult. And then the last drive of the game.
Yeah, that last drive, that was a really good one. And
that was a 4-minute offense, which is yet another condensed style offense.
Exactly.
They are one of the best 2-minute offensive teams in the league, and they are one of the best 4-minute offensive teams in the league. Why is that? Oh yeah, the guy playing quarterback. Duh.
Yeah.
Like it.
Patrick Mahomes played really good on that last drive. He had 2 plays in particular that were just over my dead body type of plays that we've seen time and time again from Patrick Mahomes. And it's funny that we can, and we'll dive into this drive more, but this is it's just so expected, and obviously it's for reasons, because Mahomes is just so surgical in these situations, and he knows exactly what he needs to do, when he needs to do it. If he needs to take it with his legs, he'll do it. If he needs to make a guy miss to complete a pass, he will make it happen. And it's something different when they get in those clutch situations like that. And I believe that they had flashed a stat up where Mahomes was 25-26 when trailing in the fourth quarter. Yep. That makes him even. Now he is literally 500 of all time in situations where he's trailing in the fourth quarter, which is miles above the next closest guy in NFL history. I don't even know who it is, but I know it's way
bonkers. I think it's Brady, and
it probably is Brady. I think it's
in the 300s. He's
I think it's 380 maybe. Yeah. So it's just something different when Patrick Mahomes knows the game's on the line. He's gonna make the right decisions, And this, the 3rd and 10 shot to Xavier Worthy where he scrambles around, and Samaje Perine has one of the best pass pickups, blitz pickups that you can see from a guy. I mean, you saw shades of Jerick McKinnon there for sure.
I was going to say, Jerick McKinnon is smiling somewhere on his couch going,
he was loving that one. But that was just vintage Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball literally in, like he was in the air when he threw that ball, and
whole lower body turned the wrong way, body turned the wrong way in midair, flings it. That's not normal.
That's not normal. Yeah,
it's not normal. We're all used to it
stuff right there
because he does that crap every week.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't even blink an eye when we see that.
Normal.
Well, like that's something that not many other guys are making in the league. Period.
Both 3rd down conversions on those drives. So the crossing route to Xavier Worthy on the 3rd and 10 before half, where he waits and waits and gets smoked while he's throwing the ball, and it's right on his hands, and Xavier Worthy's gone.
Such a ridiculously hard throw to make too.
And then the 3rd down and 10 throw that we're talking about right now. First of all, Samaje Perine doesn't just pick up a blitzer; he picked up Derwin James.
Yeah, and he laid his whole body out there for it.
Run. Yeah. Derwin was at a dead sprint
when
Samaje stepped in front of that. If y'all aren't familiar with Derwin James, I don't know how you're not familiar with Derwin James.
Pretty good player.
Point.
Pretty big hit deliverer too.
That's a huge human that moves extremely fast.
Very insane athlete. Yeah.
We talk about car accidents happening on all of these plays.
Yeah.
That was 2 cars going head on at like 70 is what that was. And you could tell because both dudes after that play were over were like,
was like,
ow,
oh my
God, that hurt.
Yeah, but shout out to him for just laying his whole body out on the line.
And he gets all of them.
Yeah.
The whole, so much so that he actually got him twice because the initial contact happens.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of separation. Derwin keeps going, and Samaje re-engages with his hands again to knock him down and give Patrick the space that he needs. Gives him just enough time for then Patrick to do a leaping ballerina pirouette half spin.
Yeah, step up in the pocket, flip it out there, and then Xavier
Travis takes 2 defenders again with him out of the middle of the field, and Xavier's like, well, Travis is leaving, so I'm going to go right where Travis was.
Yeah.
Xavier comes back to the ball.
Beautiful awareness by Xavier to just sit right in that zone and realize the situation, come back to the ball. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Makes a catch with a dislocated finger.
Yeah, that's it. Jams his finger.
We'll tell you how, because we know that because you'll notice it after the play. And I think his mom tweeted confirmation of it today.
He gets up, celebrates, hits him with that, and then he's like, all right, let me pop this guy back in.
As he's celebrating, he finishes the celebration, and he continues to make it look like he's still celebrating. And while the camera's on him, yanks his finger back into the socket and unjam. Like if you've never jammed your finger,
dude. Yeah,
if you've never done that, it sucks. But if you jam it or dislocate it and have to put it back, it's even more unfun. As someone who's done that more than once, it's not. It hurts. It sucks.
Not fun.
Also, it makes catching things a lot more difficult. So the part where he bobbled it. It wasn't a clean catch. I don't care. He caught the ball, and then he had to put his fingers back where they go.
Yeah.
So
awareness from him was that was great. Xavier
that's his big a play
every single week.
It was a hat and t-shirt game, and that was a hat and t-shirt play.
So that was a huge play, and then they go a couple more play. Pat has a big scramble for 10 yards that he gets.
Okay. Everybody was screaming, why has he got his head down? He's got his head down. He had already decided he wasn't throwing that ball.
Yeah.
As soon as the lane to his right opens up because the rusher kicked out too far and he saw everybody was in man coverage, he didn't need to look down the field anymore. He wasn't throwing the ball.
Yeah.
He put his head down because he was going for the first down and there was nobody else was getting that football. That's why.
There's been many situations where Pat very, very quickly tells that the play ain't going to work, and he'll just take it. he is not afraid to take it and get
It
those
may have
yards
worked.
himself.
Somebody may have been open downfield.
It might have been, yeah.
It didn't
decided that
matter. He wasn't
didn't matter,
giving
yeah.
them the option. I'm just going to go do this. It's fine.
Yeah, sometimes even when there's like a little bit of that quick pressure and he sees, I mean, Pat sees everything. Like he sees that hole open up and he's like, all right, here we go. That'll do it. Like he does not like, especially in those big critical situations, he does not like having to get rid of the ball. Like on the next third down, we'll talk about, like he was really ready to just run that thing and try to thug it out and get that first down yardage. And luckily Travis came open. So yeah, that was the next impressive play of that drive. Basically the game-winning play.
That's it. That sealed it.
Yeah, that was the sealer. 3rd and 7. Rolled out right, and immediately it seemed like D Hop was pretty open. I was even on the broadcast. I could see D Hop kind of comes open pretty easily, and I was screaming at him for the throw to D Hop, and so Pat scrambles out right. Just it's so funny watching Pat scramble out because he's just so nonchalant with it most of the time, and then you really turn it on and number 0, very good play. Came running real quick.
You're going to apologize for whatever audio distortion is happening to Garrett's mic at the moment. I don't know what that is, but you faded in and out. Yeah, you went completely gone for a second during there. Anyway, continue. Yeah, you're fine now. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it was like it thought it came unplugged for a second or like it because you got real muffled real quick for a second. I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, it might have been the case. But
anyway, apologies for the brief audio issue. Continue about Patrick looking.
Pat rolls
nonchalant.
Out, makes a guy miss so casually. It's like Henley was running so quick downhill at him, and he just, I mean, it's just the most casual little oop, never mind, you're not going to get me. And then he sees Trav open, just sitting right there, right across the first down marker, lays it in there, and that's game.
This will come as a surprise. Travis changed the route.
Yeah, turns out, and you can even see where he very clearly should have been running a corner route, and I think he can tell very quickly, like especially as one of those things, situationally wise, it's like you don't need to be going towards the end zone. You really don't need to be taking an end zone shot there and potentially having just anything go wrong in that situation. Travis recognizes it pretty quickly and says, let's just sit down right here. Obviously, everything's going away and around for me. Let's sit down, sit in this zone right across from the first down yardage. And,
literally sit down. He was damn near sitting down when he caught the ball.
Yeah, and just instantly goes down to a knee, and that's that. I'm rewatching the play right now, and Trav, he just very quickly realizes like he probably had the good inside leverage for a corner route, and Pat probably could have delivered. I mean, you could see Pat even like kind of goes.
He started to throw it. I'm almost positive. Pat was like, where's he going?
Pat, and he's like, or he's looking at Trav. And he's like, I guess he's not doing a corner route.
All right, we're not doing that. What are we doing?
I guess that'll work still, I suppose.
That's the Sandlot stuff we talk about. That's the backyard football stuff that they do. You see him go to load to throw that corner route and look at Travis and go, where are you going?
And then he's like, all right, hold on, let me make a guy miss. All right, here you go. There you go.
So takes 2 more steps, draws the whole. You see, I think 3 guys come up towards him to try to stop him from running, and then right over the top.
Just a little casual.
And there's nobody near Travis.
No.
And so then they decide to take a knee.
Yeah, they were solid. I was very surprised that they were. I mean, I get it. I do get it. But yeah, they were satisfied with that. It took 2 knees and set it up for old Matthew Wright, who delivered the game-winning field goal off of a doink. The doink to win the division, as Tirico called it. Cairo Santos somewhere was smiling and laughing his ass off. Probably the same thing happened to him
8 years ago.
Yeah, it's
2016 against Denver.
Yeah, against Denver, a walk-off OT winner. And then we get Matthew Wright to do the same thing. So it was just it was one of the more hilarious endings to a Chiefs game because I had full confidence in Matthew to make that kick. And then for the fact that it doinks in, it's like can't make it up.
I'm in a group chat and somebody goes, now just don't miss it. I said, first of all, why would you even say that?
Don't even say that. Yeah.
Don't need to be jinxing things. We know Tirico's going to try to jinx them because that's what him and Collinsworth have tried the whole time. They tried their 17 narratives that they've been running for the last 2 years against the Chiefs. both of which playing like they have no idea how some of them have became narratives when they're the ones that created them. I hate that broadcast booth.
Yeah, that is a bad one.
I'll be honest. I watched him kick that, and I was like, that's going to hit the upright. Like, as soon as it left his foot, I was like, oh, it's going to hit the upright. But I also didn't have a single change in my blood pressure because I was like, it's going to go in after it hits the upright, but it's going to hit the upright.
Yeah.
And doink and in. And I was like, yep, there it is. You can't make this crap up anymore. You can't.
Had to make it as stressful as humanly possible, down to the literal last second.
It's what they do.
Yeah.
Harold tweeted that clip again from Patrick at the American Century Golf Classic like a year and a half ago or whatever it was, where he made the tongue-in-cheek joke about how I gotta have good ratings and it's gotta be exciting and keep it entertaining.
Chris Jones post game reiterated those same
thoughts. It's what much like the offense or the defense Spags does not care except for about how many points they give up. The offense does not care except for whether or not they won the game. They don't care.
And they also don't
honestly think they relish this at points because they know in the big situations, in the big moments, in the where everything gets a little tighter and it gets a little harder to breathe and you get a little anxious and they're not going to make the mistakes. The other team is. They're not going to be the problem. The other team's going to have the problem. Whether it's getting a field goal blocked because you can't block a field goal. You can't run your own field goal block team, protection team. Whether it's snapping the ball into your quarterback's chest who's not looking at you. Whether it bounced off the inside of the upright and still went in. Whether it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
They don't care. It doesn't affect them.
No, yeah.
Because they've been and they've done it on stages that are way bigger than week 13 for a division game. But you know who really, really needed that game to make sure that the division wasn't completely sealed up yet and help improve their playoff chances? The team on the other side. And you know who tightened up down the stretch and got a little nervous and uncomfortable on that last drive and blew a couple assignments and did some stuff they shouldn't have? The other team. It happens week in and week out. I honestly am somewhat not convinced that they're not playing to have these games in these tight situations because they know they're so much better than everybody else in them.
Well,
they do.
This was one of the there's so more experience. I think someone mentioned on the broadcast whether it was Tirico or Collinsworth or someone, but they even said outright like the Chargers aren't used to these situations, like they have not had to win a lot of big games in crucial moments. Like the Chiefs,
and every time they do, they fold like origami. Remember the Jacksonville game where they were up like 30 and lost last year or 2 years ago in the playoffs?
Like they don't have that familiarity of like winning in those tough situations. Like the Chiefs have done that. I mean, they're on 16 consecutive wins 15 consecutive wins of one score games, and it's like that's because they know how to win those games. And I kind of thought this after the game. It's funny while it's also sad and extremely stressful. But how we kind of talk about how you can't really use the regular season Chiefs for what the postseason Chiefs are going to be. You almost can't even look at the first 3 quarters Chiefs and expect that to be the same Chiefs you get in the fourth quarter. Like you could almost just throw the first 3 quarters out in most situations, because when the fourth quarter comes, they are literally just a different team and they get it done. Like they no more tomfoolery, no more stupid play calls. Like when the fourth quarter comes around, those first 3 quarters, however they looked, it really does not matter.
They said that in the prep. I can't remember which coach or which player or who it was that said that in the press conference this week. I think it might have been Spags.
Yeah.
But legitimately, that was a comment this week in a press conference was, whatever it looked like the first 3 quarters, we just got to do it. We got to do it different in the fourth quarter, and we're good.
It matters, and that's what so many of these teams around the league and just they don't get. Like we see it literally everywhere. You can use Buffalo for an example. I mean, I always compare the Ravens are a really good team where it's they're putting up all these
until it's the fourth quarter.
Yeah, they put up all these big points and numbers, and then they end up not getting it done in the end. The Dolphins were like that last year, I thought, where it's they all these high explosiveness, but it's I don't know. It's different in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line and you need to go down and get a win, and it's about, Jason Kelsey had a good quote about on the Rich Eisen show, I believe he was on. I forget the quote exactly, but it was something about, confidence relates to how familiar you are with the situation. It's like,
right.
The Chiefs are very familiar with what it takes to get it done in those crucial moments, in the big moments, in fourth downs, in fourth quarters. It's a different feeling, and it's something that you can't really, you can't practice for it. Like, you can do all the installs and third down and red zone and all you want to do, but it's about having experience in those situations and realizing what needs to be done and locking down and making it happen. And that's just the difference between the Chiefs and everybody else in the league. And that's why they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. That's why they're 12-1. That's why they're probably going to have the 1 seed at the end of this if they keep on handling business. And it's not going to phase them how it looks. And we are going to keep on coming on to this podcast every week and saying how ugly it looked. And it ultimately does not matter. And that's just the Chiefs football in 2024. That's what we got to get accustomed to. And I'm sure it'll look much better, hopefully, in the playoffs. But for now, this is what we get. So
they don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care what it looks like. They don't. It does not matter. The goals are winning, and that is it.
Yeah.
It's win the division, win the AFC, and get the first round bye, win the Super Bowl. That's what they care about.
That's all I need.
Patrick was asked if he thought this team could win a Super Bowl or if he thought this team was good earlier this week. First of all, dumb question. What's he going to say? No.
Yeah.
Second of all, he said it. I've not played on a team where I didn't feel like we had the opportunity to win a championship since I've been here. And he's right. You know why? They've played the AFC title game every year. That's the floor. It's the floor.
The floor. Yeah.
Okay. Stat from Matt McMillan with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is now 8-2 when playing the league's #1 scoring defense in his career. He's 21-3 when facing a top 5 scoring defense. Your scoring defense does not matter. They win games.
Yeah.
They may not win them by 30. They do enough to win the game. Do we love it? No. Is it easy? No. Do most of us want to pull our hair out of our head for 3/4 of the game, if not more? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Are the results at the end of the day what they are supposed to be? Yes.
W's.
They're 12-1.
Yeah.
They've locked up the AFC West on December 8th.
Yep.
They have a 2-game lead.
9-time consecutive AFC West champion.
Yeah, for the 9th straight time. They have a 2-game lead on the rest of the AFC because while Buffalo scored 42 points, they lost to the Rams because they gave up 44. Huh.
Yep. Points do matter when it comes to allowing them. Yeah.
And here's the fun part. Now, you look at schedules down the stretch here. The Chiefs have Cleveland and Houston.
Houston and the Steelers coming up as well on Christmas, right? Yeah.
Right. The next 2 games are Cleveland and Houston.
2 games, of course. Yeah.
The Bills, next 2 games. Detroit.
Oh.
In Detroit.
Wow. Yeah, they're cooked. Yeah.
Patriots at home. Division game. We talk about the division games. By the way, the Bills played. Where is it? Where is the? Yeah, they beat the Jets by 3 in October. So division games.
Games.
They play the Patriots in Buffalo. They play the Jets in Buffalo, and then they have to go to New England. They may lose 2 more games down this stretch here.
Yeah, so the Chiefs are very much in control of their destiny, and now they have 2-game lead now. You have a couple familiar foes. Well, not really unfamiliar foes, but not not the greatest of
if Kansas City beats Cleveland and Houston, and Buffalo drops a game, it's done.
It's done. Yeah, you're pretty much locked in. Yeah. Might even
It's
see
done.
a Carson Wentz Christmas or something like that if that happens. Yeah.
I legitimately, what I would do if that is the scenario that plays out, and we'll get into it maybe a little more when it gets closer as things progress.
Yeah.
But if you take care of business against Cleveland and Houston and Buffalo drops one of their next two, I would play Carson Wentz in the backups against the Steelers on Christmas. And I would treat the Denver game as a preseason game where you give them a quarter, the ones a quarter, get some reps for some guys that are coming back off injury, Hollywood Brown, and Steven Nelson and DJ Humphreys, and get a couple of, some conditioning work in for those guys. And see you in January, boys.
See you in January.
At Arrowhead, because you'll have it all the way through to the end again.
Yep. Well, we can't get too ahead of ourselves because we still gotta get the job done, secure those wins, and keep moving forward. So with that, that's everything we've got for you today. It was a pretty eventful episode to talk about, which a lot of things to talk about, which why I ran a little long. But we appreciate you all for tuning in and rocking with us. We will be back later this week for another episode. Actually, next episode is our 200th episode. This is 199. Next episode is 200. So been a real fun journey going on with all of you, Chiefs Kingdom. Yeah.
Oh God, we've been doing this for a while, huh?
Yeah. So pretty crazy. It's been a real fun ride covering this team. And it's only continuing. So appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching. Be sure to follow us at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff. All the support, the likes, the comments. It's all so greatly appreciated. Also be on the lookout for probably a contest this upcoming week for episode 200. I think that's probably the move.
Probably
in the contest.
Shout out Tamba Holly.
Oh yeah! Shout out Tamba getting inducted into the Ring of Honor. That was really cool.
Banging the drum, Ring of Honor,
honoree, and then they inducted him to the Ring of Honor. Super, just awesome player. Loved watching Tamba. One of just the best dudes in the NFL and very deserving. Definitely a very deserving add to the Ring of Honor. So, it was overall just a really good Sunday night for Chiefs Kingdom. So just keep on taking those W's, keep on appreciating the little things. Accept the fact that it's not going to be pretty, but we'll probably keep on getting those wins after all. So that's always the most that's always the thing that gets you most happy now is wins over losses. Losing sucks. So
especially against division opponents.
Yep. So that's it, Chiefs Kingdom. Thank you all for tuning in and watching once again. We will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.